It's another waitingfornextyear.com podcast. TD is in the house, and we're going to talk about sales. Both of us have some real-world experience in sales. So when we come across people who put on the hard sale, we buy. I mean, naturally, that's the only thing you can do when somebody puts on the hard sale, right, TD?
Well, listen, there's a fine line here. The hard sale, you can't go. Sometimes you got to go too far.
No, so you recently had contractor-type folks
yes.
In your house trying to sell you a service or some product or whatever. And one guy in particular, you said, would not leave your house.
Well, here, let's put it this way. When you have somebody come out giving you a quote, he should not be in your house for 2.5 hours. And for the last 45 minutes, that person should not be bringing up the fact that, well, you like my product, right? And you like the services I've offered, so why can't you just buy now? And when I explained to him that you are the first quote I'm getting and I'm not going to buy from the first person I've seen, you should then take a step back and say, I'll be in touch, and walk out. Don't dig yourself another 45-minute hole because you're not going to get the business.
And it just reminds me, because as somebody in sales, there's nothing I hate more than somebody who tries to sell me something. I don't know what it is. It's just a reflex I have. The best salespeople, you don't really realize that they're selling you something. That it's a parlor trick almost.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you think you're learning information, and in the end, they're just there. And listen, I'm in sales. I mean, I respected the guy for what he was trying to do, but
he was bad at it.
It was 2.5 hours. Oh, how about the other thing was he would go over certain aspects of stuff like the history of the company and yada, yada. And then he'd ask my wife and I, so tell me 2 things about what you just learned that you enjoyed. And I was like, are you serious? This isn't school, man. It was ridiculous.
I'm not your puppet. I will not repeat back for you.
And I'm not going to out this company, but I heard an advertisement for them last night during the Indians game on the radio.
It's like
I laughed.
It's like the old Howard Stern bit where he'd make Benji repeat after him.
Right. Sure.
I am the dumbest.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, the worst in the world though are furniture stores. There's a furniture store around the corner from you, and my wife and I were just killing time walking around, and the dude followed us into the parking lot, kind of yelling, "You're telling me none of the chairs in this store would look good in your family room?" I was in awe.
That's awful.
And it's not the furniture store you probably think it is. It's the one next door.
Was it like the end of the month, like one of those situations?
I honestly don't remember. It was probably 3 or 4 years ago. But man, I was so embarrassed for him. I turned around and I said, "Did you really just follow us into the parking lot?" And he just kind of looked and then walked back in, because I was far enough away. I'm very non-confrontational, so unless I'm really far away and have physical distance between myself and somebody, I don't have those snarky comments. I'm not brave.
Well, when you're on I'm in sales and I work on salary plus a bonus. I'm not a commission salesman. So if I were a commission salesman, maybe I'd feel differently, because you got to close to get your money. So I don't know. I just think that there's a fine line between being a good aggressive salesman and going over the top and being annoying.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, we didn't come on here to talk about sales, but
if people only knew that we spent the last 20 minutes before the podcast talking about this,
yeah,
we had to crowbar it in somehow.
Yeah, exactly. All right, sports. So fill me in. What are you feeling about your Tribe? It's getting pretty bleak, right?
I think last night was the death knell of the season. You have the Minnesota Twins in town for 3. They're terrible. I mean, that's a bad baseball team. They have a bad pitching staff, and their lineup, it's like, the 2010 Indians out there with a bunch of 4A guys and like 2 or 3 guys in the lineup that are decent enough to beat you, but can't.
And they're 20 games under 500. There's nothing to play for.
No, you can't lose home games to that. Last night they started a kid, Trevor May, had an ERA over 9. Not exactly Clayton Kershaw out there. And the Indians scored 2 runs on 6 hits against them, and both runs one was a sac fly and one was a ground out. They kept putting runners on base, not bringing them home. They were 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position. And, again, this offense is just, it's starting to catch up with them, the fact that, you're playing a bunch of kids out there, and, you have Jason Kipnis who's not doing anything, and Michael Bourne's not getting on base. And these are just, you can't, the big stat was last night was their 14th time in their last 18 games that they scored 3 runs or less.
See, I can't believe it, man. I do believe it because I'm watching it, but I never in my wildest dreams thought that this team would have so much trouble hitting and scoring.
Well,
I knew that they'd be subject to a slump or maybe some injuries, and anything can happen. But even considering the guys in the lineup, I didn't think it would be this bad offensively.
Offense is down throughout baseball, but and the Indians, it's still, I think the Indians are still 6th in the league in runs, which is I don't know how that's possible, but it's very frustrating. There are guys in this lineup that should be doing. I mean, I go back to Kipnis and Bourne and Swisher. Those are 3 guys that are supposed to be 3 of your top horses. I want to say they're the 3 people making the most money, and those guys are, if they do what they're supposed to do, this offense should be giving you enough to win these games. I mean, the pitching that the Indians are wasting on a nightly basis is, it's staggering.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, but what are you going to do? I mean, at this point, they got to ride out what they have to ride it out with. But I think last night was the killer, and I think that's the end of the season, because they're now, I think there's 18 games left or 19 games left if you include the one with the Royals where they need to get 3 outs for the win. And they really are they're 5 back now after that, and they're really going to basically have to, go on a 15-3 run to get back to tying even for the wild card if the other teams go 500 that they're chasing.
Yeah, because they're really in that scenario now where they need help from other teams to just, piss their sheets, and you never really want to be in that position.
Well, look, the Royals last night, they've now slipped into a tie with the Tigers. The Royals lost last night. They had 2 on with nobody out in the 9th, and they went for a double steal, and Jared Dyson got picked off a second, and Joe Nathan ended up getting out of the jam, and the Tigers seem to be charging. It's interesting. We'll see what happens. The Indians have the Tigers and the Royals coming up back to back. They have the Tigers coming up this weekend in Detroit, I believe, and then they go to then the following Monday the Royals come here. So I don't know. We'll see. The Indians still have those 4 games next week with Houston, who is a terrible team. There's still a run to be had, but I just don't know if they can't hit. I don't know how you're going to win game. You can't count on winning every game 2-1. It's too much pressure.
It's way too much pressure. It's playoff baseball.
Every night,
every single night with margins that slim.
Which is great for the fans, by the way. I mean, it could be a lot worse. We could be talking about us being the Twins, 20 games under 500, playing out the string, and God knows what I'd be writing about on a daily basis.
Yeah, because, we've pretty successfully avoided any extended attendance talk this year, but the Indians are really popular on TV, so regardless of what is actually happening in the dynamics of ticket buying or whatever else, I mean, this team has been relevant. They've been relevant late into the season, and it's showing, at least on the TV ratings, that people actually do care about this team. Yeah, and
I know the attendance conversation is not one that people love to have, and I personally don't love having. But
it's not even love. It's like we've had it.
Right, we've had it's done. But for last night, for example, I read that Seattle, who's right there, 1 game from a wild card, they're drawing like 11,000 on a Tuesday night also. So this isn't as much. I mean, as much as we want to make it a Cleveland problem, because we love making it all about us. This is a baseball problem more than a Cleveland problem. But the fact that the ratings on TV are so great tells me that there's interest. I also judge things by, us being big Twitter people. I know it's a small sample size, and baseball's an older sport, older audience for sports. So, I don't want to paint a broad brush, but I mean, how many 65-year-olds are on Twitter, but I know a lot of 55 to 65-year-olds who love the game of baseball and watch the Indians every night.
Yep.
But the sample size I get, just judging by, the comments the number of comments on the pieces I write, or the number of people that are talking tribe on Twitter, obviously the Browns and the Cavs have more, there's a hardcore faction of tribe Twitter people, and, like the, sports yelling and brutal Stephanie and, and myself and Monty the color man, there's some people out every night. I have a nice conversation with, probably, 5 to 10 different people that are usually hardcore diehards, Ed the Revelator, people like that. But I don't think that there's a huge, baseball's still a dying sport. The NBA is still king, and NFL's still king, and NBA continues to grow. So I don't know. Where I'm going with this is basically it's nice to have these games in September mean stuff. I don't judge by the crowds. The fact that people are watching on TV makes me feel good, though.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it's you're right. It is a good community. Sports Yelling comes on this podcast, and she's a lot of fun. So let's talk about the Browns first. I assume you caught all the first week action.
I sure did.
You didn't quit at halftime?
Yeah, it's funny. Obviously, I go to all the home games. The road games, I usually watch with my son. My father-in-law's in town, and he grew up in Cleveland, and he's a big Browns fan. So, when I switch to the Red Zone channel, like commercials and stuff, and if I miss a play, he gets mad. I mean, he's old school, diehard. I mean, I'll be the first one to say that I was going to give them basically a half a quarter to get it together, and then I would have switched over to the Red Zone. But that first drive, they came out. I have to give, as ill-prepared and as horrible as they looked in that first half, and, a lot of, flack should go to Mike Pettin and the staff for having them so ill-prepared. Then you got to turn around and say, think about all the years that we've watched since 99 of our teams just looking horrible in the second half and coming out with 0 halftime adjustments. They went into that locker room, whatever was said from the players, whatever adjustments was made from the coaching staff, it worked. That no huddle coming out, boom, they scored immediately on a quick drive, and that got you right back in it. The defense tightened up. Imagine if they would have lost 37-3 and looked horrible that whole first game. I wouldn't even have wanted to go this week.
No, and not only that, they came out and they went no huddle, but they ran the ball. They didn't go into the Pat Shurmur, well, I threw it 40 times in the first half, I'm going to throw it 55 in the second half.
Norv did the same thing last year.
Well, I give Norv a pass because he had the ghost of right. Willis McGahee standing in the backfield. But still, the idea was that they not only made adjustments, but they made smart adjustments based on the strength of the team. This team, their strength is running the damn ball. I certainly thought that coming in, and they proved it out. And they good of them to not get too bashful and just shy away from that.
But you're right. This is Mike Pettin's. He is in that Rex Ryan mold. He wants to play tough defense and run the ball. And even after losing Tate looked good, and then even after losing Tate, West and Crowell both looked good, and they were running right a lot, which is basically the right side of the line is not as strong as the left side of the line, but they ran right a lot. And I really love the way they ran the ball. I think that zone blocking scheme. I don't know why more teams don't use it. I think it's fantastic. I know it's a passing league, and that's probably why. But I really was thrilled with how the running game looked in the second half, and that Crowell just looked like a beast. It's just I tweeted this during the game. You watch Crowell and West and Tate, even for that matter, just makes you. How bad does Trent Richardson as a player? These two guys, undrafted rookie, third round drafted rookie. These guys ran. I just can't see Trent Richardson. Trent Richardson never ran like this.
But it doesn't make sense either. You remember that first game that Trent Richardson had against Cincinnati.
Right.
He looked like a Madden player. It looked awesome. And I don't know what happened to him. I just don't know. I don't understand if it's confidence, if it's between his ears, whether he's just not smart enough to understand, or I don't have any idea. It doesn't make sense to me that he's that bad. But
And this,
it
and
is
now,
what it is.
right? And now in Indianapolis, he's basically, this is now the second. This is basically his third different offensive line in the last 2 years, and he still looked terrible in the opener. And when he looked bad last year and Donald Brown looked good, I think that had a lot. You can say, oh, it was a new scheme for him. It was a new playbook. Donald Brown knew it, but
that's a wacky team too, because I take a closer look at them. I think not including Andrew Luck's scrambles, I think they ran the ball 9 times this week and threw it 53 or 54 times. And yes, they were down to the Broncos quickly, but that team is a Pat Shurmur style. This is probably the best a Pat Shurmur offense could look with Andrew Luck at the helm. But and I don't mean perfectly Pat Shurmur style. I just mean throwing with that frequency. And it's crazy how much they throw the ball. It's crazy. Even with Andrew Luck.
Well, you'd think that they would need some sort of balance, but I think it's getting to the point with the Colts. The play action doesn't work because so they have to pass because they can't run. So when you don't have to worry about the play action pass, you kind of just have to just go to that offense. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I am thrilled with how things turned out. Other than the fact that they lost, I mean, they could have very easily rolled over and died, and they came out and played inspired football in that second half. And you knew, so funny, when they had the ball and they ended up punting, and I think it was before the Steelers got the ball back, not the last time, but the second to last time, I said, this is all setting up quite nicely for a last-second Steelers. I think we all knew that the Steelers were going to win in the last play, didn't we?
Yeah. Well, but then again, the Browns defense had a chance. It wasn't great field position for the Browns defense, but the Steelers still had to convert a couple of big plays in order to get into field goal range, and the Browns defense gave it up. So, and that's just my kind of defense of the coaching a little bit, the decision making. Was it perfect? No, it's never going to be. And it's especially never going to be when you lose the game and when the Browns defense gives up another 15-yard play here and a 20-yard play there in order to allow them to kick that final field goal. It sucks. It sucks hard. But, I mean, they played really well in the second half. They came back. And it was like one of those bad days of golf where you have a really great hole on 18, and then all of a sudden you're like, all right, I can't wait to play golf again.
I hate the moral victory thing. I really do.
Well, moral victories don't exist for them in the locker room, but they can exist for me.
Sure. Well, even then, it's just like a loser's mentality. But then again, we haven't won anything in. We haven't won a playoff game since 1995 or 1994, so I don't know.
I mean, do you think they have any chance against the Saints this week?
I mean, if I only watched the first half last absolutely not. But sure, why not? The Saints are different when they're outside on.
They're also a bad run defense.
They're a bad run defense, which is good. Sure, why not? I think this team, I hate to change my view after one good second half of football, but I think this team will be a lot like the Mangini 5-11 Colt McCoy team, where they were in every game. They lost a lot, but they were in every game. And when they beat the Saints in New Orleans, they beat the Patriots, and then they lost that heartbreaker to the Jets in overtime, like on the last play of overtime. I think they're going to be that kind of team. They'll be, good enough, but they'll still only win 5 or 6 games tops.
We'll see, and I think they've got a much better roster. If the coaching is kind of as competent, whether you like Mangini or not, he was somewhat competent. So if the coaching is at least that good and they have a better roster, I think this team is perfectly average. I think they're capable of winning 8 games. I think they're capable of only winning 6 or 7 games. I mean, that's if you have an average football team, they should win 8 games, and then the rest depends on luck, injuries, and execution. So I'm with you. You're probably right. It's probably a 5-6 win team, and if they have some good fortune and they reach their potential, they should be able to win 8. But they should also be able to surprise a couple of teams at home.
Sure. Listen, there's no reason, just looking at the schedule, for example, okay? I don't know anything, who knows about the Jaguars, but are the Ravens that great that we can't beat them at home?
Nope.
No. Are the look, we basically had the Steelers on the ropes. That's the next home game after that. Okay, that's winnable. The Raiders coming in here, winnable. The Buccaneers coming in here, winnable. The Texans coming in here, sure, that's winnable. Colts and Bengals, those are the other two. They should be in every one of those games. I'm not saying they should win every one of those games, but they should be in every one of those games.
The Colts and Bengals will be favored, but not by a touchdown.
But this isn't Denver coming in here or Seattle coming in here or, one of these teams that's just going to overpower us. I mean, these are all winnable games.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're going to, but they are winnable.
So I was also saying on Twitter today that it finally feels okay to actually talk about football. This has been a really bad first week of NFL because of all the off-field distraction stuff with the commissioner and Ray Rice and who knew what. And I mean, it's like the NFL's Watergate going on. I don't. It's just have you gotten caught up in it, or I mean, where do you come out on all this stuff?
I don't want to say I'm caught up in it, but the problem is, when I listen to sports talk and that's all they're talking about, or you go on Sports Center and that's all they're talking. I've actually kind of tried to turn it off. I mean, when that story broke.
Well, do you think they should be talking about it on local Cleveland sports talk?
No, no, I don't. But it's hot. It's a hot topic. You know,
it's hard not to.
I listen to my brother every day. For those who don't know, my brother has his own sports talk show in Detroit, and he was on this podcast a couple weeks ago. And his first hour, luckily for him, since it's in Detroit, it was the day after the Lions Monday night game. So the first hour was Lions, which was good. The second hour was when he was going to go into Ray Rice, and I just didn't listen. I didn't want to listen to it anymore. Everyone's got their listen. For somebody who's doing sports talk radio, a topic like this comes up, you got to talk about it because you're constantly looking to look for material to fill an hour. So stuff like this pops up, you got to go with it. But doesn't mean I got to listen.
Yeah.
Listen, it is what it is. I do my opinion on the whole thing. The NFL botched this completely. I think if they say they didn't see the video, it's because they chose not to see the video. But the original, if Goodell would have just suspended him for a full year, I don't know if that video gets leaked. I don't know what happens, but you suspend him for a full year. You say there's a zero tolerance policy on domestic abuse, and this is where we're going to draw the line in the sand here. I think people applaud him. Instead, the tape leaks. They gave him 2 games. He looks horrible. Now everyone thinks, everyone wants him to lose his job.
I don't even think it would have taken a full year. It just needed to not be so tone deaf. If it would have been 6 or 8 games, I don't know, maybe even 4. It's almost crass to try and put a value on an incident like this. But I think his instincts that, I'm doing something and the legal, he didn't serve any jail time, so I'm doing more than the legal community. I don't think that's necessarily wrong. But just, doing 1 game or doing 2 games was so obnoxiously
right.
Tone deaf that he just missed the boat. But, so if he doesn't botch that and he goes with 6 games, maybe this isn't being dragged out 3 and 4 or 5 different times. And I don't know. It's just he's been chasing ever since he made that first mistake.
Yeah, and now they're kind of making up the rules as they go along. Like all of a sudden now they're going to revote on the drug policy, and now all of a sudden they have a domestic violence. You got to be out. You're the NFL. You're one of the biggest corporations in the country. You got to be out in front of this stuff. They're playing catch up, and that's just not good business. Even as Teflon as the NFL is, this is a real hardcore black eye.
Yeah, well, and I think Roger Goodell is in serious danger of losing his gig because they don't need him.
Nope.
Anybody could fill that chair for the most part. I mean, not anybody, but there's a long list of qualified people who would like that salary, who could take that job and do that job. And once you are tainted in a position like that, 33, 35, a third of that job, half that job is I hate the word, but optics. It's
Sure.
It's PR. It's the way people think about you when they see you, and nobody looks at him and feels confident or comfortable anymore. He is lost. He's like a politician who lost the confidence of his electorate. He's done. And I think his credibility is shot, and I think that they will have to get rid of him sooner rather than later. And he's no different today, but the mistakes, the track record is different, and people can't look at him and feel confident anymore. And I don't think the owners can survive that.
Yeah, but here's the thing you got to remember about those owners. And this could be anybody, but he's making these guys. Being an NFL owner is a license to print money. The only person who couldn't figure that out was that horrible owner, Art Modell.
Yep.
Who, whatever. We don't have to rehash that, but if you see it, do you see Bob Kraft's comments yesterday at all?
Yep.
Okay, so he basically came out and said the commissioner did an excellent job and he moved swiftly and yada yada. The comments of backing him just proved to me all you need to know, which is basically these guys are going to back him no matter what because he continues to make them so much money and help them out. So
my point is that he's not making them money. I could make them the same amount of money.
I agree, but they're all in major support of him. Bob Kraft is like the lead owner.
No, that's just right now, because that's in the wake, the aftermath. They'll find a reason. I think over the next 12 months, they'll give him that beautiful, beautiful golden parachute, and somebody else will be in the job.
Well, I think so. I think what's going to end up happening is somehow it's going to leak out that people in the office knew, or he had the opportunity to see the tape and he chose not to. And with that, I think that's when he's going to end up having to resign. But, I don't think it's going to be because the owners, like the other thing is look at some of these owners that have been let in. I mean,
yep.
It's great that Jimmy Haslam is, whatever he is off the hook at this point, but, he obviously built, people out of, lots of money. The owner in Minnesota is, a complete train wreck. I mean, he's the one who's supposed to be approving these guys, and he and vetting them, and the vetting process has been so horrible. So I don't know. I don't think he's gonna. I think eventually he'll lose his job, but I don't think it's going to happen in the next week or two or month, which people want to have happen.
Well, and honestly, I think that maybe we are putting too much responsibility on the NFL. I don't think they should have seen the tape. I don't think they needed to hunt it down any further. I don't think they needed to investigate any further. I just think Roger Goodell didn't need to shit the bed when he disciplined Ray Rice to begin with. It was easy.
Yeah, that's what it comes. Right, exactly. That's what I said.
I know.
Drop a year suspension on him, and none of this happens.
Well, and all those people who were talking, well, why did they need to see the second tape? They didn't. They didn't, and they shouldn't have.
Right.
And even before they got the second tape released, he said we messed up, and he increased the blanket suspension to 6 games. So, I mean, the only problem in this situation is that Roger Goodell screwed up from the get-go. So I don't know.
True.
I figure he's. They will find a graceful way to move on from him and paint it some other way, and he'll have a beautiful, beautiful retirement package, and they'll get somebody else in there who's even looks even better on camera, hugging first-round draft picks.
Or maybe they'll put him out on the field and let Antonio Brown, karate kick him in the face.
Yeah.
Was that the craziest thing? That is one of the crazier things I've ever seen in an NFL game. Do you think he did it on purpose?
No.
I think he looked like he was just trying to hurdle him, and he started his hurdle too far. But that was something else. I
don't know why people are up in arms about it, though.
Who's up in arms about it? I thought it was funny.
Some people were saying, "Oh, he should have been kicked out of the game. He should be suspended." And
come on.
It was perfect. He executed the move. They threw the flag. They gave him a 15-yard penalty. What else do you want? That's the way it goes.
That was fantastic.
It would have been so Browns Steelers if they had said, "There's no flag on the play because the guy lowered his head and he was hurtling and there was no,
Right.
but no, they threw the flag. They charged him 15 yards. Perfect. The real problem with the dirty play that the Steelers have executed against the Browns over the last few years was usually there was no penalty even. James Harrison would knock
Right.
somebody's. Was there a penalty when he knocked Josh Cribbs' head off?
No, not Cribbs's. But
Was there a penalty on
there was
McCoy?
there was on the McCoy play.
Okay,
yeah. But that was also right after.
but
they
not the
changed rule.
Massaquoi.
No, that one either.
So
God, I forgot there were 3 of them.
he got away with 2 out of the 3 beheadings of Cleveland Browns players. So anyway, he's retired now.
Great guy. Great guy.
Well, and that was a fun conversation too. Steelers fans would always say, "Well, if he was on your team, you'd defend him too." And I always
That's like, well, of course, if Bill Laimbeer played in the Cavs all those years, we would have loved him, but he didn't.
yeah. Well, I'd like to think that I would have been better than that. I remember. You remember that hit that T.J. Ward put on Jordan Shipley?
Sure. Oh my God, absolutely. Decapitated him.
That was my lesson. I defended T.J. Ward until I started to really think about it. That was the moment where I said, okay, yeah, I can't defend my guys if they do stuff like that.
Well, there's also a fine line in being, because it's so hard to tell these days in the NFL. It's whether you're trying to jar the ball loose or whether you're actually trying to kill somebody. So,
yep.
And that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, just wait. By the end of the year, we'll have at least 2 or 3 opportunities probably to talk about Dante Whitner in that respect.
Well, what was it in the preseason game? And he played a really nice game the other day in the second half, at least. And I really, by the way, and Dansby was fantastic.
Yep.
And then speaking of which, did you watch Crowell at all Sunday night? Ooh, he looked like an old fighter out there trying to hang on for one last round. I mean, yikes! Couldn't guard you out of the backfield. I mean,
no.
I know you're fast and all, but
yeah, I am. No, I felt bad for DeQuell. I really do like him.
right, of course, who doesn't like him as a person? But
he's just not. He's not a frontline leader of the defense kind of a linebacker, and that's what you need in the middle.
I think the Colts had 2 ex-Browns playing big roles on the defense. Who was the other one? I was watching and I said, "Wow, if that's who they're going with." And it was DeQuell and someone else. I can't remember, but
I can't remember. Oh,
yeah, but
was it somebody on the defensive line?
I honestly don't remember. But I think that we'll see a major upgrade this week on the defense, despite the fact that the Saints have such a high-powered offense. They really look good in that second half. I think they'll build off it.
Yeah, well,
and you know who else looked great, by the way? Kruger. It was the best game he's played as a Brown.
I trashed him
last year.
No, early on in this game, and then 2 plays later he started playing, and I was like, oh, well, I guess I take that back.
I hope he thrives in this defense, and that it helps, because he really looked good in that second half, especially. They put good pressure on Roethlisberger.
Yeah, they certainly did. They need to finish those plays. I know Roethlisberger's a tough guy to finish against, but
right.
Mike Adams, strong safety.
Yes. So it's very funny. So are you going Sunday?
I am not. I will be at home. I like to go twice a year. So I've picked out my 2 games. I am going to go to the Colts game. And I can't remember what the other one is, but I go twice a year. That's kind of my deal.
Okay.
So.
It definitely has lost its luster going down there.
I will not allow my wife to wear Colts gear to the game, though.
So you don't want to listen to your wife get abused?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, speaking of which, I went to Michigan Notre Dame Saturday night, and I went with some I have no dog in the fight. I just went because it was Michigan Notre Dame, the last one, and friend of mine had an RV, and we went down there, and it was fantastic, and he really hooked us up, and it was great. But I was on the Notre Dame campus with a bunch of guys wearing Michigan shirts and walking to the stadium. I'm talking, a good 3-4 hours. Not one person booed, yelled "Go Irish" at my friends. None of it. Nobody.
Really?
We got "Welcome to Notre Dame" from people. I'm not even kidding. More people said "Welcome to Notre Dame" than not one person heckled any of my friends. Not one. It was the most polite crowd I've ever been a part of in any sport.
That's crazy.
It was insane. I couldn't believe it. I was actually like mad. Like, what's wrong with you people?
Awesome.
Yeah. But I know if your wife walks in with a Colts shirt into the Browns game, she's going to get, beer dumped on her.
Well, or somebody will say something, and it's not worth it. I mean, it's not.
Of course not.
She'd be fine, but it's just not worth it.
No.
But overall, your experience to Notre Dame was that your first time being there?
This is my fourth time being there, believe it or not. When I lived in Chicago, it was a nothing drive. A buddy of mine who went to Michigan, who I went to the game with, his bachelor party was at Michigan Notre Dame like 10 years ago. Kansas played there in like 2000, and I went. And then I went with clients once to see Notre Dame Navy. So I've seen it. It's cool. I haven't been to that many big-time college football games, so it was a cool atmosphere, no doubt. I still want to get down to like an SEC game and see what that's all about.
Awesome.
That's on my bucket list.
SEC game. Yeah, I don't know that I have Notre Dame, or I don't really have any stadiums on my bucket list. I don't know why.
It's more of an atmosphere, like, in college basketball arena. Like, I've been to almost all the big college basketball arenas. The only one I haven't been to is Kentucky. But I've been to UCLA, I've been to Duke, I've been to North Carolina, I've been to Indiana, UCLA, Kansas, obviously. So, I mean, that's kind of cool and it's different. But I really like going to a college football game. It's more of like a all-day experience than anything. And guys like me and you, I mean, I know I went to Kansas, but we were never good in football. We missed out on that in our college experience of checking out one of those giant, going to Ohio State and spending a full Saturday doing what Buckeye fans do, which would have been cool. I would have loved to have had that experience.
Yeah, you know what I actually would really appeal to me would be to go to like Indianapolis for the Big Ten championship game one year, or when they've got the do they have the Final Four in Indianapolis?
Yeah, yeah. It's like on a rotating basis. They get it probably every 3-4 years.
So I would love to go see like the Final Four atmosphere.
In Indy this year, actually.
Oh, okay, because that's just crazy. I'm not as into the NCAA tournament as much as you are, but I mean, nobody can deny the power of like that environment of college fan bases just losing their mind over March Madness stuff. I'm as crazy as it gets, but so I don't know. I've been down. I went to the national championship game when Kansas played Kentucky in New Orleans a few years ago, and that was an amazing atmosphere. Nobody travels like Kentucky basketball. I mean, Kansas fans are probably our second best. I mean, I every time I go to an opposing arena, because with my job I get to travel, and I always usually try to tie in a KU game if I have to, if I can. But our fans travel amazingly. And then I went to that championship game, and Kentucky fans are unbelievable. And I saw Kentucky play North Carolina. I go every year to this Champions Classic the last 4 years, and it rotates. I was in Atlanta, and I think it was at the Georgia Dome. I bet there were 20,000 Kentucky fans, and it was November. So I don't want you to think this was like a tournament game. These fans were insane. I mean, acting like it was a tournament game. They're nuts. The Big Blue Nation. They're crazy. Great fan base, man. Yeah, I hate giving credit to fans like Kentucky fans, but you're probably right.
But the loyalty and the diehard, and I mean, they'll go anywhere. It's cultish almost.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for carving out the time today. We went even longer than I thought we were going to. That always seems to happen to us. I
know. Hey, listen, as you know, I'm long-winded at times. So I apologize for the extra 10 minutes to you and the listeners.
They accept your apology. Until next time, for TD, it's Craig, and you can find us on Twitter. He's WFNYTD. I'm WFNY Craig, and this has been the waitingfornextyear.com podcast.